Red One is a new Christmas action comedy starring Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, and J.K. Simmons. In this movie, J.K. Simmons plays Santa Claus. He gets kidnapped 2 days before Christmas Eve, or was it the day before Christmas Eve? Sometime before Christmas Eve, and there's not a lot of time left. The Rock plays his sort of head of security that runs the North Pole. He's gonna find out who has taken Santa Claus, where he might be. In order to do that, he enlists the help of Chris Evans, who's just a normal, everyday person, but he's supposed to be this unbelievably great tracker. So now the two form this very unlikely tandem and team, and they gotta work together to find Santa Claus and save Christmas. Yeah, I saw the trailer for this movie, and, you know, I think like just about anyone else, I thought it was going to be really stupid. The movie looked messy, the plot looked silly. I mean, in my eyes, the only reason it was even getting a theatrical release was because it had A-list stars like The Rock and Chris Evans, and hell, Lucy Liu and J.K. Simmons for that matter. But you know, I still decided to go into this movie thinking, you know what? It might be stupid, but can it be fun? Can it be like a guilty pleasure sort of holiday movie? I mean, we've had plenty of those already. Why not have one that's like an action comedy? Yeah, and sadly for me, this one wasn't even guilty pleasure vibes. This one just made me feel guilty for going to see it. Alright, so where I'm not going to rip on the movie too much, where I will give some credit where it deserves to be given, is I do appreciate the world that is sort of built on in this movie. Like, I like seeing what they did with the world in the North Pole, like seeing the whole security system that works for Santa Claus, seeing how Santa Claus in this case isn't exactly like this big fat guy, he's actually jacked and ripped, and you know, seeing J.K. Simmons in that role was actually enjoyable. Not even just the world of the North Pole, but how they explore on different other, you know, mythological things that associate with Christmas and winter, and even have nothing to do with them at all. I mean, at one point they reference the Headless Horseman. I thought that was kind of cool. Like, yeah, all these mythological beings that we grew up hearing about or being told stories of, yeah, they're all here, and I appreciate that. Also, not gonna lie, in the beginning of this movie, I actually thought there was some serious potential here because it touches on, namely what they focus with Dwayne Johnson's character. You know, he served as Santa's head of security for a while, and he talks about how, in this case, in this time of year, or this time of the era, or whatever you want to call it, there's a lot more people on the naughty list, and they bring up, it's like, you know, as kids grow into adults, they forget about the kids that they were at heart, and as a result, they become more jaded, become more shitty, and as a result, there's a lot more people on the naughty list, and it's made, you know, Dwayne Johnson's character lose his faith in humanity that Santa Claus is trying to reel him back into. Again, I actually appreciate that because that's absolutely true. As people grow up, they become a lot more jaded, they die a lot more inside, and as a result, they just become more shitty. They're not the type of people that you want to go to someone's house and you just want to, you know, give them a bunch of gifts. So yeah, I see all that in the beginning, I'm like, this actually has potential to be a lot better than it was. And then right when Santa Claus gets taken away, that's when the movie just really unraveled for me. Okay, I'm gonna say this much right now. The Rock and Chris Evans, they don't really have any chemistry together. I mean, the way they play off one another, I can see what the movie's trying to go for. You have one guy who's talented but deadbeat. You have another guy who's clearly very uptight and very serious. You think that would make for a funny sort of dynamic, and it really didn't. Like, the comedy of this movie just never really hit with me, and I'm fairly easy to make laugh. I maybe chuckled like twice in this whole movie. And even still, the heart that I thought they were gonna have in this movie, especially towards the beginning, that never really hit me to a level that I was hoping it would. I mean, there's this whole side story with Chris Evans. He has a son that he doesn't really care about or, you know, really affiliate himself with, and you know, the movie wants you to care more about that relationship. It wants you to become more invested in that. It wants you to root for Chris Evans to be a better man. But I never really gave a shit. I never got invested in, you know, this character or his problems that he has back at home. It never really made me want him to be better. He was just along for this ride and I didn't really care. Also, I gotta touch on this right now. Visually, this movie is a fucking mess. Which is really shocking to see. I mean, this movie cost $250 million. That was its fucking budget. That is nearly 3 times the budget that Oppenheimer cost to make. So how does a movie like Oppenheimer visually look amazing, that didn't even use CGI for that matter, and then a movie like Red One, which is a CGI fest, look like ass? Like, it was $250 million, you couldn't clean up the special effects a little bit more here and there? Like, where the fuck did that money go? My guess is most of it went to this A-list cast, namely the 2 leads, because you needed a reason to get it put into movie theaters before it got released straight to streaming, which I'm pretty sure was the initial goal with this movie. Instead, they're like, nah, put it in theaters with all these people in it. We'll definitely get some people coming out to go see it. It'll get them in the Christmas spirit a little bit. No, yeah, it probably would have benefited more if you put it on streaming, because then less people would have gone out of their way to go see the absolute shit mess in terms of visual effects that you put into this movie. I mean, hell, even the action of this movie, I mean, it's hailed as being like this action Christmas movie, something like that. I mean, a couple of years ago, we got a movie in Violent Night that was basically Die Hard on Christmas. Well, even though Die Hard takes place on Christmas. A more Christmas-themed version of Die Hard. There you go. That movie was a lot of fun. I had a great time with that. Action-wise, it was great. That's exactly what Christmas movies should be like if you're gonna take the action route with it. The action of this movie is not very much fun. It's pretty forgettable at best. Alright, hell, the scene with the snowman, you know, going onto that island to fight these guys, it's messy, it's all over the place. The way they take the things out, I think, is pretty stupid and way too convenient. And hell, speaking of convenience, there is an action scene towards the very end. I will say that's probably where the action really kicks in, because aside from the snowman fight and the scene at the end, there's not even much action. But there are a few moments in that final action scene. My eyes just rolled into the back of my head because it's just nonsense. The way one character is able to maneuver himself through something that frankly should have probably killed them, well, it just had me screaming bullshit from my chair. Not actually, because I'm in a movie theater and I'm not trying to be a dick to other people, but internally I was. And even still, there are some hits these people take. I'm like, how are you alive? I mean, I can kind of understand maybe to a degree with The Rock, because, I mean, one, he's The Rock, but he's also meant to be, like, you know, Santa's head of security, so maybe he gets, like, you know, magical North Pole powers that make him more invulnerable to attacks or whatever. But Chris Evans is just your normal everyday dude, and he survived some shit that made me like, how are you not paralyzed? So yeah, another movie that just completely threw logic to the wind, but, you know, what else could you expect from a movie like this? So all in all, Red won. It was just way too silly and ridiculous and dumb for me. The movie had a couple fleeting moments of heart. I can appreciate some of the world building they put into it. But yeah, I didn't feel there was any real chemistry between the two leads. The movie lacked humor, even though it's meant to be a comedy. The movie lacked the fun action scenes it's meant for an action movie. And above all, the heart that's meant to be in a Christmas movie that makes great Christmas movies what they are, it didn't hit me. I mean, in the end, guys, this is all according to who you are. If you can go in, you can enjoy a mindless, empty story with two big lead actors, then maybe you'll find some enjoyment here. But if you need anything more than that, it's just not going to be for you. It certainly wasn't for me. Definitely doesn't quite have me in the Christmas spirit yet. Nope, you're going to have to wait till after Thanksgiving for that now. So that's all I got to say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. And as always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.